pessoal, aqui mais um live no canal. Essa vez vamos falar sobre entrevista, but we will speak in English this time. Several students I have know that they can speak English, and so I will insist. I'm pointing the camera at me just because I had some people ask, in the pictures I have the glasses, the headset. They wanted to see what I look like while I'm actually driving. So, this is me. This is the way it goes. Yes, but I won't be able to leave the camera on me. But we will practice our English. We will practice listening. The way that I speak when I'm helping people who are learning English is not a typical English or American accent. Very slow, very separated. So this is not advanced English practice. This is for people who know English, can understand English, but not at a high level. We'll use simple, basic English for this class. Please leave your comments in English or in Portuguese. Any question or doubt that you might have about the culture, about the language, any situation of American life that you want to know, leave in the comments, and we will discuss it. And also, we'll talk especially about working, and especially at the most important, the interview for the job. They are very common, very many jobs have the same kinds of questions during the interview. So we will speak about those. First, let me welcome, we have Cajecitas. Hey teacher, I think your mic, oh really? The microphone is still off. Flausa, hello? Okay. Cajecitas, are you hearing now? I hope the microphone is working. I use the same headset all the time. Hey, Vino is back again. Ka says it is not working. Oh, darn. So can you hear me? Can you not hear me? Is there no sound at all? What's going on? I hope that's working. It's showing up as receiving audio. Okay. Anyone else? Can you not hear? Simone, welcome. Thank you for coming again. Can you say pizza? Oh yeah. Oh, this is Shanky. Yes, pizza is as if it were a T. Pizza. Tissa. Pizza. It's very weird. But it's an attempt to sound Italian. Right? They say pizza, right? But it's better than the English of pizza would be the pronunciation. But it's pizza with a T. Pizza. We also have Giovino. Yes, I can hear you. And the sound is low quality. Oh, darn it. That's unfortunate. The headphone is usually good. I'll try to bring the microphone closer. That usually helps. Even I can try there. That might work. I don't know. The head thing, sound canceling. Thank you for the help. I hope the sound quality is still good. The headset is pretty good. I hope it usually works fine. So let's hope it can continue to work. Again, you'll leave your questions in English or Portuguese or Spanish. I understand as well. You're welcome to leave the questions in Spanish. But I will be speaking English so that we can practice our listening, our basic pronunciation, and focus more on English and not only the culture, but the language too, especially. Also, again, I will have to move the camera again. I can't leave it on me for more than a little while. So thank you for all. I will still read the comments, so leave your comments. Again, comenta en português, se deja en español también, or in English. Any question is fine. Okay, let's change the camera here. Okay. Oh. The camera quality is not good too. Okay, we have Helsher. If no one has told you yet, you're wonderful, bright, beautiful. Oh, that's so nice. Rest of your day. Thank you so much, Helsher. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Helsher, thank you so much. That's very kind. You have a blessed day as well. Thank you. And we have Silvana Souza. How amazing. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to do this. So today, I don't want to go too long without bringing up the subject of the interview. So entrevista in Portuguese is interview in English. And you have a job interview especially. You know, when you start to work at a new place, when they want to see what kind of person you are. You know, what experience you have and what skills you have. So the job interview will always start with a basic conversation. With, you know, hello, tell me about yourself. That is almost always the first question. And in an interview, they want to know especially what about you makes you a good job applicant. What would make you a good employee? So you want to talk about maybe if you have a family, your dedication to your family, your experience, your education, and some other personal information, maybe where you are from, and that can help create a connection. But that tell me about yourself opens the door for you to introduce the parts of the interview that you want to focus on. So you say, tell me about yourself. You should have always 2 minutes prepared to speak about yourself, and always in a positive way. Many people call it the elevator interview, right? If you were on an elevator, está preso dentro por uma pessoa, how long can you talk about yourself? That is all you have. 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. That's the tell me about yourself. And focus on your good character, focus on your experience, focus on things that make you unique as a candidate. And then they will ask their own questions later. Alright, Givino says, por que a fonetização de F em inglês? Oh, So let's talk a little about some spelling. PH, right? Like telefone, right? Or farmácia. The PH is so silly. The answer is the Greeks. All the words that Americans use PH to write an F sound are Greek words, or have their origin in the Greeks. So you can blame the Greeks for why PH says F. There's no particular reason. That's just the way they wrote it, and they pronounced it slightly different. And Americans just decided to keep that when we wrote our words. I prefer, like in Portuguese, where you write the word phonetically and not originally. And we don't care what the Greeks said. We need to know how to learn to read it. So good question, Javino, but unfortunately the answer is because of tradition, because the Greeks wrote them that way, so we will write them that way too. Very annoying, very frustrating. Thank you for your question. Please ask more questions below. Everyone here, feel free to write a question, especially regarding work, employment, the interview, any part of the working process is our focus, but any question is okay. Aí, de novo, vamos falar o tempo todo em inglês, mais calmo, básico. Então, espero que estamos se esforçando para entender realmente o inglês, porque esse vai ser a versão de inglês mais fácil para entender. So thank you for listening and practicing, and feel free to leave a comment or a question or anything you have. Today, again, we will continue talking about the interview. So that is the first question you will be asked in an interview. Tell me about yourself. Yay. That's your open door. You can talk about anything you want. The second most popular question is, why should we hire you? Or maybe, to say another way, why do you want this job? So not, again, open to you, but for you to say why you are a good applicant for that position. And you can talk about your experience. I went to school for accounting, and this is a good accounting firm. It's very, very common. Or I have a personal interest. For me as a teacher, maybe, I always loved teaching, and so I want to teach language to these people. If you know any questions, please comment them below, and we can discuss those as well. I'm curious who has the most difficult question that they have received in an interview. I will speak mostly about the common questions, but the difficult ones do happen, and it's good to be prepared, and they're also funny to talk about. So comment below your most difficult, or maybe your most embarrassing interview question. So tell me about yourself, very common, and tell me why I should hire you. And again, you focus on your strengths, what you do well, your experience, your education, your motivation. Maybe the job is a very simple job, something you don't need education or experience. You call those entry-level jobs. When you just start, an entry-level job, cashier or a truck driver, maybe you don't need any particular education. And so the motivation is, I'm motivated because I have children and I need to make a lot of money, and so I will work hard to make the money. That's an acceptable answer. That's a good answer. Of course, you want to play to your strengths as much as possible. We have a question here. Greetings from Poland. JM, welcome. Welcome from Poland. Most of my students are Brazilians, so I'm excited to see we've reached out more. How much is a lot? That is a good question. We talk about numbers. We can use specific numbers, 5, 10, 100. But we can also use, like a lot, relative numbers to say a couple, some, a few, or a lot. And a lot is always relative to the subject you're speaking about. I could say 6 is not a lot objectively, but if I'm speaking about 6 cars that I own, that's a lot of cars, right? So a lot means more than usual, more than is typically there. It comes from lot, meaning a collection or a group, like parking lot, that same lot. And so when we say a lot, we mean the whole thing. It's not 100%, but it is a very large percent relative to the thing you were talking about. That's a good question. Oh, another here. But how much truck driver get? I see. In Poland, it's 24,000. Oh, yeah, no, it's more than that here. As a truck driver, it changes because you are almost always paid per mile that you drive. So if you drive a very busy week, then you'll get paid more than if you drive only locally and don't drive many miles. But you can usually expect at least 40 cents a mile would be maybe starting salary, maybe more. And then more experience, you get paid more each mile, and obviously more time on the road, the more you make. Yeah, it's not, 24,000 is not a lot. I'm not sure the transfer from American dollars to Polish currency. But yeah, $24,000 would be a small salary in the United States. It would be around minimum wage. A truck driver would typically make, I've made maybe 40,000 in past years. When I first started, maybe 40,000 per year, but also quite easily more as well with more companies, more experience. It's very reasonable to expect 80,000, even 100,000 if you drive all the time, or if you drive special freight. Right, I drive only regular box van, nothing hazardous, nothing oversized, just regular, dry, not even refrigerated. And then the more complicated the freight, the more you will get paid. For example, this truck in front of me is called a flatbed, not a van, because it's open. So you call this kind a flatbed, and he will get paid more per mile than I will, regardless of experience, because he needs to put that tarp. He needs to secure the load, put the tarp. Unloading and loading take more time. So you can make a lot of money as a trucker if you drive a lot of miles, if you drive special freight, flatbeds or refrigerated or oversized loads, things wider or longer than normal. If you drive in the winter, usually places will pay more. Basically, if you do what people don't want to do, you get paid more in the United States. It's a good question. I'm glad that you came, JM from Poland. It's exciting. Returning to our subject, we have the interview. Right? We will continue to talk about jobs and the interviews and what we can do to prepare our English for the interviews. And the first thing is knowing the questions. So, top 5 questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? Meaning, what about this job is attractive and why should you get the job? Also very common that we have not talked about yet. Very common question for job interviews is, tell me something you did before that was a mistake that you learned from, right? tell me a mistake that you learned from. And of course, you want to answer in a positive way, something that shows that you grow, that you understand. So you say, an easy answer is, I took too much work. I worked too hard, and too much that I couldn't do all of it, so I had to take less. And now I know to work in my limits. Because that answer shows you did make a mistake, but also that even the way you made the mistake is positive. They want you to work hard. So you say, I do work hard, even so hard that it becomes a problem. That's a very simple way to get around that. Again, please leave your most common interview questions in the comments. Sorry again that I can't have the video on myself. Just legal reasons. I can't leave it while I'm driving. The fourth most common interview question is, tell me a weakness of yours. A weakness meaning something that you are not very good at or that might cause problems. And again, you want to give a weakness that's true, but that is not too bad. You do not want to say, oh, my weakness is I get tired. Because that will not help you get the job. No, you want to say, oh, a weakness of mine is I focus too much on my work and I forget to address other things like family or other projects. Something that is a weakness but is a good weakness. Or maybe a good weakness would be, oh, I'm too much a leader. So when I work in a group, I want to be the leader instead of just following. That's not a good thing, but it will not hurt you getting the job. Very, very careful way to answer this. A very common question. What is a weakness of yours in working? And another question, this is hard to talk about here, but a very common interview question is, what do you know about this company and this, or even this job position? That question, they ask to know how much you know about them. You know, if it's a big company, everyone knows a little, but they want to know, before you came to the interview, do you care enough to read about what the company does, what that job position will do? What else the company really cares about besides you, and not just, I want money, so I'm applying for a job. That's a very common question. And maybe they ask in a slightly different way. Maybe they'll say, what do you know about the company? Or what do you think your role will be in the company? And so that they can gauge that you really know why you want the job. And it's not just for money. Very common question, but also very specific to whatever job you're applying to. I can't tell you what every company cares about, but you should know before going to an interview in the United States. You should know what the company's goal is, and not only your position. You know, but if you apply to, let's say, that's hard to, an example. Let's say you apply to an accounting firm. Of course, your job is accounting. You will do transactions and math and maybe customer interface. But the accounting company has on their website that they are looking to help, especially low-income people, right? Their focus is for lower-income people to help them through problems. And so you should know before you go in, and you should, throughout the whole interview, the whole time, you should talk about how you will help with their company mission in your position. So not only I'm a very good accountant, so I can be a good accountant, but I'm a good accountant, and I also grew up in a family that was low income, and so I understand on a personal level how beneficial the company's mission is. And that will always help to understand the company's goals. Even if they don't ask the question, knowing that you are aligned with their goals is very positive in an interview. I'm looking to see if we have any new comments. We don't. Only our Polish friend, JM. Where else are people coming from? If we have someone from Poland, maybe I know we have some Americans and some Brazilians, but where else are people from? If you are in the United States, which state? Right now I'm in Louisiana, which they do not pronounce it Louisiana. Louisiana has a very strong accent. They call it Louisiana. Louisiana. Instead of the 5-syllable Louisiana, they just say Louisiana. Very fun accent, the southern accent. Where else is everyone at? Or in Brazil even. What states are you in Brazil? I always love to know where people are. And I've traveled all over the United States. So always fun to relate to people where they are. But continuing for the interview then, more about English for the interview. You should know, going into an interview, how much English you will need. Right, of course, if you are going for a telemarketer or a customer service, a call center is what they call them, you will need good English. Not only, okay, I speak English, but good English. But if you were applying for a place like a truck driver, you need enough English. In English, you should be prepared for those things. But the person who will be hiring you will also understand how much English they need you to speak. And so you can say in the interview, do not be embarrassed to say in an interview or in any situation, I am still learning English. And then whatever you need to say. If they ask a very complicated question and you didn't understand, it will be better to ask them to repeat the question than to answer the wrong question. And if you start your answer with, I'm still learning English, please be patient, or I'm still learning English, can you repeat that? That will help 1,000,000 times your standing, that person, your reputation, because they will know immediately you are honest and that you are learning. When somebody knows you are listening and trying to understand, they will always be more patient to speak and to understand you. So when you're learning English, be honest about it, and they will appreciate that, and it will make your interactions easier. Of course, in an interview, but also anywhere you go. So, I'm still learning English. Ainda estou aprendendo português. Estou aprendendo inglês. That phrase will help you so much. And then whatever you need to say. I'm still learning English. Please repeat. I'm still learning English. Please be patient, or whatever you need. That will help a lot. Again, please have any questions in the comments. I love to hear your questions. E se precisa comentar em português, não se responde editando por inglês, está bem. Para quem habla espanhol também, eu sei que tem muitos. So please leave your comments and I'll answer any particular questions. I want to maybe say here, we had Juvino ask about the PH. This is an easy spelling question that I get a lot. H is added to a lot of letters to change their sound. PH for F, right? That's a very common one. Telephone, cell phone, pharmacy. Those are very common. But H is also added to T to make it th or the, right? And so for H with T, it changes to th. H with C changes to cha, right? Not sha, like in Portuguese. In Portuguese, we would say maybe chupar, right? Chupar pirulito. We would say shu, but in English it is cha. Maybe a chamber or a chariot. It's hard to come with examples. But so cha, but for the Brazilian sha, there is SH. SH combines to make sha, like sharing, Washington, the state Washington. So American English does have the sh sound, but it is with an CH. Or sorry, it is with an SH, not the Brazilian CH. And of course, the very famous, very infamous GH. It is so annoying to have GH in any word because you do not know what it will sound like. If you need to guess, very common is that it will say like enough. Very common example. Or tough to mean duro. Very common. But also very common, the GH is completely ignored. It's silent. You do not pronounce it. Famously, in the word for, estrangeiros is foreigners. And there's a GH right in the middle of the word foreigners for no reason. Of course, the reason is Old English, and it comes from Latin, which they did pronounce, like estrangeiros, the G is in there, and so they left the G in the spelling, but you don't pronounce it. So if you see H in a word, especially H with another consonant, be careful. That is a sign that the other consonant does not make the sound it usually makes. Like P, like Jovino's question there, the P becomes fa. It's not just haha. So there's a little grammar tip for you. Again, any questions that you have, feel free to comment. I can see, even though I can't show myself on the camera, I'm looking for any comments that we might have. I know we have plenty of students too who are going through their studies and their practice. The questions do not have to be about work or interviews. They can just be about whatever you're learning or the questions you have. American culture or anything. I'm getting distracted. This is a very beautiful part of the United States. Louisiana, we are. Very pretty, very flat, so not much to see, just the road and trees. But now is the fall, and so the trees are all changing colors, and it's quite pretty. I hope it's not too boring of a visual while we talk. Continuing then about jobs, let's talk a little about, just for vocabulary, some very common jobs that we might have. And I will talk, I guess, first about the jobs that I have, or that my friends and family who are Brazilians have in the US, just assuming that those are the sorts of jobs you might be preparing for. So my job is as a truck driver. And we can say in English, we can say, like I just did, we can say, my job is a truck driver. My job is a truck driver. Or I can say, I am a truck driver. And that is more common. You say, oh, I'm a truck driver. Or other jobs that I have had, I'm an accountant. Or I'm laborer is a general term for someone who does physical work. Construction laborer, my brother is, or someone who does work in a factory or a mill might be called a laborer. Yard work, those very physical jobs. Laborer is a common word for that. And there's even a holiday, Labor Day, celebrating those people who do those very physical jobs. So laborer, and we would clarify what kind. There's cooks or chefs is a common question I get. Is it cook or chef? And they're the same thing, just how fancy do you want to sound? Chef obviously comes from the romantic chef, right? The chef in the cozinha is the idea, right? Chef. But cook is just cozinheiro, just anyone who cooks. And so very often people will say they're a chef. And then you say, oh, which restaurant do you work at? And I say, I work at McDonald's. And you say, no, then you're a cook. McDonald's does not have chefs. You're a cook. What are some other common jobs? Driver is a very common kind of job. Maybe driving for DoorDash or driving for Uber. And so you're not a taxi driver. Taxi is specifically work for a company with a physical location. You pick up their car, the famous yellow taxi cab. Only those are taxis. So you do, but you are a driver. So you just specify what company. You say, oh, I'm an Uber driver. I'm a DoorDash driver. Or even just, I'm a delivery driver. Motorista de entregas. And it could be food or whatever. That's another job that I held for many years with food delivery. So let's say, yes, I'm a delivery driver. Very common. Another job that you might apply for, let me think. If you have any questions about particular jobs that you are, or that you have applied for or would like to apply for, please mention them. I love to read your questions and answer those specifically. But there's very many jobs. Of course, the more specific you get, the less the less common they will be. For example, there are 100 kinds of engineers. Right. I've had a few students who are engineers, and they say, "Well, I'm a mechanical engineer, or I'm a chemical or aerospace engineer," and you say, "Yes, yeah." You can say engineer, or you can say your particular field. Although they do get very different, of course, the kind of work that an industrial engineer does, which is usually hands-on work with materials and gloves and steel-toed boots, is very different than the kind of work that a chemical engineer would do, which is much more in a laboratory, and maybe they mess with the chemicals, or maybe they just write out procedures and papers. But it is important, like we said with the job interview itself, you need to know what your company does and what they care about beyond your position, right? So even I have, and this is absolutely true, I have applied to a company where my role in the company, my job, was literally folding laundry. That was my job. I folded laundry. But the company was for a university that is very religious. So in my interview, they asked me, at my interview for a laundry folder position, folding clothes and sheets and bedding and things, they asked in my interview, would you consider yourself an honest person? Do you go to church regularly? Do you believe in God? And this was because it was a religious university that I would be working for. And it was so funny to have that combined. I could have said, I'm just here to fold clothes and make money. I don't care about all these other things, and I would have lost the job. But because I knew what company I was applying for, I was able to increase my chance of getting the job by showing interest in what the company cared about, their mission, their goals, their values. So it is important. It can make a difference, even if you will work with the company in a low or a simple sort of role. It makes a difference to understand the company and to have experience in similar careers to the values of the company. Apply for an accountant position, but it's at a non-profit organization providing food for low-income people. Maybe you don't have any experience as an accountant, but you have volunteered at homeless shelters before, so it can still help you. Very important to know not what job you are applying for, but what company you are applying with. So that's very, very important. Again, if we have any questions, please leave a comment below. I love to answer specific questions and know that I'm helping my students directly. Especially what sort of questions you've been asked in interviews that were especially difficult or just strange. For my example, an employer asking if I'm an honest person, right? That seems silly, but it's important to the company. We will continue live for another couple minutes here to give a chance for people to leave their comments and questions. The last thing I wanted to say about the interview process and interviewing in the United States especially is to be, it sounds like a joke obviously, but to be relaxed, right? If you go in and you're very obviously nervous and maybe you always cross your arms and you don't look at the person, if you don't speak more, you're going to lose the job. Even though you were a good applicant, you would be a good worker, you'll lose the job. And so I always recommend to my students and to my friends when they go to interview, I say, let them know that you are nervous. You know, if you are still new learning English, say, I'm still learning English, but I will try hard to understand and to speak well. That one phrase will buy respect from the interviewer so much. They will be more patient and more calm, more polite, and you do the same. You try to relax. If they know where you are, they will want to help you, and you will know where they are from their reaction. Some people, of course, are not polite, and so you might say, please be patient, I'm still learning English. And if their response is, well, that just doesn't work, you need to be on top of it, this is high-paced work, you need to focus hard and understand everything, then maybe you just know that, okay, this is not a person I want to work with or a position I want to have. If a boss won't help you, won't understand your position, even when you say you are trying to improve, then maybe you just don't want that job. But that is very good. Also, I had not mentioned that, but that is important to know. Interviews are always done with a supervisor. Maybe not your boss, right? Maybe not the person who will work directly over you, but it will be somebody who has been with the company for a while, right? Recruiters who are trying to hire new people do not do the actual interview, or at least not the final interview. You will always interview with someone who might be, and usually is, your boss. So the impression that you leave at an interview is essential, because that's the first impression that you will have with that person who you will then work for a month, a year, for the whole time you're with that company. So the impression you leave in your interview is very important. And it's for English learners, it's very important that that impression is one of hard-working improvement, of recognize that you do not speak English perfectly, but that you are actively trying to speak English better. And whatever job you need to do, obviously. But your English is, if that is obvious in the interview, the interviewer, the person doing the interview, your boss, will understand and respect that more. So that's the last thing I wanted to say about the interview in America and the English needed. I hope that was very helpful. I always loved doing these live streams, and the questions that we had were very helpful, so thank you for those. I will do again next week. Leave a comment on the video if you liked that it was in English, ou deixe um comentário se você não gostou que foi em inglês. Deixe um comentário também. Estou tentando achar o modelo certo para todo mundo. So yes, so leave your comments on the video and we'll answer those questions and hopefully get you guys the best teaching experience that I can give. So thank you again and have a blessed day. E vai vivendo a vida em inglês.